thought for this morning I would take the Parashat Tzitzit. Tzitzit is a mitzvah that we do every day, constantly. It's a very important mitzvah. And it's very fascinating. Oh, I did it.
Right at the end. Okay, Ani.
You should have the answer.
Ani has the notes. He already has his notes.
Page 186. I guess the main question, the overall question, was a very compelling question. Tzitzit is a mitzvah that a person never has to do during his lifetime. If you don't wear a garment of four corners, you don't have to wear tzitzit. And you're not obligated to put in a garment of four corners on you. So it's a mitzvah you don't have to do. And yet Rashi tells us later on, on page 188, the last three lines of the first paragraph, 4 lines. The passage about tzitzit too, why isn't there other mitzvahs? Because it too weighs as much as all the other mitzvahs together. That tzitzit is equal to all the other mitzvahs, something which is equivalent to all the other mitzvahs. How could it be that you never have to do your whole life? If you put on tzitzit, it's like equal to doing all the other mitzvahs. It means it has a perspective that none of the other mitzvahs have. It has a unique perspective. So therefore you don't have to wear tzitzit. You don't never have to wear tzitzit at all. How could it be something that's so important you don't have to do? That's the overriding question, the perspective question. Now let's take a look, read inside. Page 186, sentence 37. God said to Moses, saying, speak to the Jewish people and say to them, Asulam tzitzis. This is a very interesting formulation also. Let's go back to the first sentence. God said to Moshe, Lemor. Lemor means lech emor, go tell the people. God told Moshe, go tell the people. Then he says, go speak to Bnei Yisrael. It's another repetition. He already said, go speak to them. Then v'yomarta alehem, and say to them again. That's also unnecessary. It could be. If you tell them, go say to them, you want to give the message, what's v'yomarta alehem? V'yomarta, say. We'll come back to this. This question is a question that is compelling in every single parsha in the Torah, that once we're going to explain it, is going to change how you read every week, the portion of the week. And tell them, Vasula hem tzitzis, they should make for themselves tzitzis, al kanfe vigdehem, on the corner of their garments, l'doro sum, for all generations. V'nosnu al tzitzis hakonaf, and on the tzitzis which are on the corner of your garment, you should put a psil tchelis, you should have a blue, according to Rashi, a midnight blue thread. Tchelis, a midnight blue. If we look at Rashi in sentence 38, why are they called tzitzis? Because they hang from the, because it's a fringe. Tzitzit means fringe. And another interpretation is called tzitzit. Rosh says in the second paragraph, and you shall see it kemo meitzis min hacharakim. It's similar that you have to look at it. What are these two interpretations? If it's a fringe, how do you know you have to look at it? I mean, the word tzitzis means fringe, so make it tzitzis, make a fringe. So what is it? So how do now we have a din meitzis min hacharakim? You have to look at them, and do you have to look at your tzitzis? Uschartem hoyalachem l'tzitzis or isa moso, and you should see them. Uschartem is called mitzvahs Hashem, and you remember all the mitzvahs Hashem. Vasisa mosam, and you will do them. Velosa sur acharei levavachem v'acharei einechem. Don't go after your heart and after your eyes. Asher tem zonim achreihem, that you stray after them. Leman tiskru, so you should remember vasisem and do all the mitzvahs. That's kol mitzvos of yisem kedoshim le'lohechem, and you'll be holy to your God. Ani Hashem Elokechem asher tzeisichem me'eretz Mitzrayim lios lochem Elokim ani Hashem Elokechem. Look at Rashi here. Uschartem is called mitzvos Hashem. You should remember all the mitzvos Hashem. That the numerical value of the word tzitzis is 600. Tzadi is 90. Yud is 10. So that's twice is 200, and the Suf is 400, so that's 600. And there's 5 knots, and there's 8 strands, so you have 613. So Nachmanides asked on Rashi, it's not true. The only thing that you're obligated in the Torah is to have 1 knot. Kesher Elyon, in our tzitzis, 1 knot, the top knot. After that, we don't need knots. That's a rabbinic thing to do. So how could that be? How can you make that? It reminds you all the mitzvahs because the numerical value is 613. It doesn't have to equal 613. You don't need 5 knots.
Del Risa, he's saying 1 knot?
1 knot, that's the Torah obligation, only 1 knot. That's Nachmanides' question on Rashi. I guess another question I'd like to ask is, you see tzitzis, and then you remember all the mitzvahs. Or there's something in tzitzis that will cause you to remember, there's some intrinsic connection in the tzitzis that makes you do the mitzvahs. Let's say you do look at them. Oh, that puts some in your mind, ignites something in your mind to get you to do mitzvahs. So why? How does that work? Something.
Wouldn't that be the blue thread? I thought the color had to be the color of the sky, and it would remind you, as it were, that there is a higher being above you. When you looked at the blueness, I mean, you wouldn't think if it was a dark. But okay, whatever the color.
Yeah, that's actually very right. Take a look. Let me bring that Rashi. Is that Rashi? Here. On page 1686, last Rashi. And similarly, last 4 lines, the color of tchelis, the dark blue, resembles the sky, which becomes dark during the evening, and the 8 threads refers to the 8 days from the time the Jews waited from leaving Egypt until they said Shira Aliyah. Let me ask you, how about if I wear a blue shirt? Roger doesn't have to wear tzitzis. He has a blue, maybe a little darker blue shirt. According to Rashi, you would need a little darker blue shirt. So what do you have to wear tzitzis for? And none of us have to wear tzitzis. We see Rogers. What does this mean? The whole idea is so really strange. And it's something we do, and it's good to understand what we do. What I'd like to suggest is the following, and I think it's a very interesting principle. My wife tells me, don't forget to pick up a bottle of milk today. Before you come home, bring a bottle of milk. Just an example. So I tie a red string around my finger. What do I have to wear a red string for? I'm wearing a shirt. Why doesn't that remind me to bring a bottle of milk?
Because you always wear the shirt.
What?
You always wear the shirt.
Because I always wear a shirt.
The thing around your finger is different to what you normally do.
I need something different in order to remind me to do something. I need something different. The Torah is telling us like this. But is there anything intrinsic in the red string to remind me to bring the shirt? I have to bring the milk home? Nothing, right? I say there's nothing in tzitzis either. There's nothing in tzitzis whatsoever that gives you any notion that you should do the mitzvahs. But the Torah says it is. It means is that you have to make it into that. Tzitzis is something that you have to make into a sign, which means tzitzis is something that doesn't have make any sense. Why are you wearing it? I'm wearing I don't need the garment. I don't need tzitzis. I don't need fringes on my clothing. The answer is I do this because I want to create a sign to remind myself. The man is creating the sign. It's not that there's something intrinsic in the tzitzis. The man is creating the sign. Okay? Let me tell you what this. I just answered a very difficult question that Tosfos asked. How do we get 613? Tzitzis is Sadi is 90 and Yud is 10, and other tzitzis Sadi is 90 is 200, and the other one is 400. The Suf. Tosfos asked the Kasha, tzitzis in the Torah doesn't have two Yuds. The word tzitzis is always spelled Sadi Yud, Sadi Sof. There's no Yud. There's no second Yud. There's a chiruk, but no second Yud. What?
That's only 390.
So that's the end of the gematria, right? It's like the Hasidish, Shabbos, Kugel's gematria Shabbos. It doesn't work. It's much less Kugel. It means eat more Kugel. What's going on over here? So this is what Tosfos says. I want to explain Tosfos. When a Rishon says something, albeit it looks foolish, they never say anything foolish. They are the greatest thinkers for 1,000 years already. Tosfos like this. Let's look in the pasuk. Vasulachem tzitzis, right? How come they have a nosnot tzitzis? How many times do we have the word tzitzis so far? Twice. V'hoyelachem lit tzitzis. Lamites, we have the word tzitzis how many times now? 3 times. The third time it says lit tzitzis. That's a lamed. You take the lamed and you divide it by the other 2, by 3, so that each one is equal to another 10. It's not my answer. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds absurd. What's Tosfos talking about? What he's saying is exactly what we're saying. There's nothing intrinsic in the tzitzis. It's that we use it for a sign. Since there's a lit tzitzis, therefore that's what I have in mind when I make a sign. Why is this? I'm making a sign that will remind me of the mitzvahs. There's 630, but there's not 630 mitzvahs. But there is a lit tzitzis, so in my mind I say I'll divide it by 3, and therefore it'll be lit tzitzis. Which means the whole idea of tzitzis is man makes the sign. which let me just tell you what it changes now for all of us. Don't think putting on tzitzis means anything in the morning. Doesn't mean anything whatsoever. Has no value at all as far as getting to do the mitzvahs. It means you have to, in your mind, make it a sign and commit yourself to do the mitzvahs. When you put tzitzis on in the morning, you have to say, I'm committing myself to do the mitzvahs. I'm giving myself a reminder to remind me that I must do the mitzvahs. So I'm making a commitment to do mitzvahs. It's not that tzitzis has some secret power to do. It's that I am designating this as a reminder for myself. How do I do that? Because of all the things that don't work out, and I'm just adding it. But I'm making a commitment to do the mitzvahs, which is a whole different thing than when you put on tzitzis in the morning. When I'm doing a mitzvah, it's not good enough. It's a commitment to do all the mitzvahs. Putting on the tzitzis in the morning is a commitment to do all the mitzvahs. Now the Ramban's question on Rashi gets answered. Nachmani's question on Rashi was, Kesher Elyon, is you only need one knot. You don't need, that's the point. You don't need it. But why do I make 5 knots? So that I should have a way of giving me an adequate reminder. I'm just something giving me in my mind. This is something that a man does. And therefore, it's a mitzvah you don't have to do your whole life. You don't have to do your whole life. That's part of it's being unbelievably, if I don't have to do it, why am I doing it? I don't got to do it. I'm not obligated to do it. What's the answer to that? Because I want something to make a reminder that I should do something. I don't have to put on tzitzis. But I know I don't have to put them. So why am I putting them on? To remind me to do the mitzvahs. It was this very fact that there's no obligation is what drives the whole perspective here. There's no obligation. So why am I wearing tzitzis? I don't have to wear. Because I want something to give me a reminder for what? And then I remember all the different reminders. And therefore the color is the same thing. The color is a way of reminding myself that God is the King of the universe. Well, I want to go on that theme a little more, what exact. But everything is now answered what we said so far. Right? That all the questions that sound so absurd is to understand that this is something I'm using for myself to remind myself that I will do the mitzvahs. I'm committing myself to do all the mitzvahs. The fact that it's not an obligation you never have to do in your life. The fact that it doesn't require 5 knots. The fact that tzitzis is not even spelled the way it's spelled that it's only equals 590. And I use all my thinking to change that. And that's the notion of what tzitzis is. You get in the morning, you put on tzitzis, you're committing yourself to do mitzvahs. Which, by the way, means you're starting the day in a different way. Before you get out of bed, or just about upon getting out of bed, before you put your shirt on, you're already you're setting yourself a mission for the day to do mitzvahs. Which is a nice, healthy perspective to have. It's not to get up, I got to make money today. No, I got to do the mitzvahs today. That's what putting on tzitzis means. I don't mean that that's one of the biggest mitzvahs to make money. I don't mean not to make money, but it's a commitment to go ahead and do what's right. I'm committing myself to do what's right. That's the idea of wearing tzitzis.
The wrong people wear them. So in the real world, the people who, my perception is, the people who wear tzitzis, who you see walking around, as it were, are the more religious of us. And those of us who don't wear it are the less religious of us. And therefore we're the one who should use it. We're the one who should wear it, not them. They already know it. It's successful. It's us who should be wearing it.
Well, let's put it like this. They've benefited from wearing it, so start wearing it. That's exactly the point. You start wearing it. That's exactly the point. They've already benefited. But the question is a different question I thought you were going to ask. Unfortunately, a lot of people that wear tzitzis, you wouldn't want to lend money to. Right. So what happened? People can use reminders as as just wearing a uniform, but not really committing themselves to do. There was a person that I was actually makarev many years ago, and he's wearing these long tzitzis, and he's at a meeting, and they're going, "What are you wearing these things, David? Why are you wearing these strings?" He said, "It's to remind me not to cheat you." And that's exactly the truth. It's a reminder to be the most moral person you can be. All the things that Torah teaches, that have to be moral, caring, kind person. That's what the tzitzis remind us. And that's what I'm putting it on, to remind me that I have a mission in life, and that I have to be as sensitive to all other people the way God wants me to.
Two questions. Why is this then not an obligation on women?
Good question. That's a very good question. Anybody have an idea on that?
They don't need it.
Yeah, but why don't they need it?
Sorry, ask the question
Can I
again.
give you both answers?
Why is it not an obligation on women?
They are not obligated on all the 613 mitzvot.
What?
They are not obligated on the 613 mitzvot. They are only the
Okay, but let me ask you. Since they're not obligated, therefore they don't need to remind themselves to do
No,
it?
it's when you put on tzitzit, you're obligated. You want to be obligated to do the 600.
So
And they are not obligated, so why put on the...
the problem with that is they're obligated in all the negatives. 613 includes 365 negative. So they're obligated. Why don't they remind themselves
why
to
do
do
they need something that reminds them of 613? Number 613.
But they have to remind it of 365.
That's the real answer.
So let them remind themselves of 365. The answer is, why does a woman not have to do the mitzvahs? Why does a woman not have to blow shofar? Why does a woman not have to take a lulav? So the law is because it's a mitzvah, shazman groma. It's not constant. It only comes out infrequently, once a year. So the Avudraham says that the reason that they're potter from the mitzvahs is because they're meshubah to their husbands. A woman has to take care of her husband. How long does it take a woman to take a lulav? Does anybody here's wife can't spare 2 seconds that she has to take care of, shine your shoes? I mean, do you give her 2 seconds off in the day that you can't? That she can't. What's the Avudraham saying? This is a great Jewish thinker, that the reason women don't have to do the mitzvahs aseh shazman groma, the ones that depend on time, is because they are in debt. They have to take care of their families. It doesn't seem to resonate, right?
But the simpler answer, I suppose, could be something you said last time, the time before. That is, a wife and a man are a single unit. And if you think of it as a single unit, man and woman, the man does it, you wouldn't do it twice.
Right. That would make sense, but then on the other hand, let the woman do some mitzvahs that should take care of the man too.
She could do them all and let you off the hook.
What?
She could do them all and let you off the hook.
He's saying an unbelievable thing. And we all know this to be true. Something that's very important to you. How much is it? Is the pressure how long it takes, or how important it is? What creates stress in life? That the fact that you have hours of work, or the fact that you have something that's very important? You have a meeting here that's going to decide whether you're going to get this big business deal. The meeting is an hour meeting. You'll get it or you won't get it. A week ahead of time, you're stressed out, right? That anything that's important to you creates a huge stress. What they're saying is that it would create a stress on the woman. Would create a stress. I'm just saying what he's saying. Would create a stress on a woman, and therefore she doesn't. We don't want her to be stressed because she has to take care of her family. We don't want to create stress on our wives because they have to take care of our families. The husband, and then the children. But she doesn't have the mitzvahs, but she needs the reminder. The answer is, a woman is much more connected to God than a man. A woman doesn't need a reminder that she has a relationship with God. Doesn't need a reminder that his purpose in life is to get close to God. The women, all through Jewish history, the women, starting in Egypt, the women didn't buy into Pharaoh. The women did the mitzvahs. The women, when the Jews were going out of Egypt, the women made themselves drums and musical instruments because they were sure they were going out. A woman feels more connected. She's more connected to her surroundings. She feels more connected to God's presence in the universe than a man. And since she considers herself, and since she is more connected, she doesn't need tzitzit. Tzitzit is to remind us, I'm doing my business, or I'm not thinking about God. No, I have a reminder in my body that I put there to remind me that I have to be connected to God. A woman always feels connected to God.
Why? Why should she feel more connected than a man?
A woman feels more connected to her surroundings. You go out with your wife. Who's going to notice everything in nature? They're more connected to what?
I think it depends on the person. There are men who appreciate those sort of things too.
I didn't say a man can intellectualize it, but a woman actually feels connection to nature. She feels. It's like part of who she is. Time is part of who she is. She feels very connected. You go out, she'll always know where the moon is. You go out, your man, 1 second. She's very, very connected to nature. Women their being is to be connected to their surroundings. I can explain that a little bit better. Who do you think teaches the children a love of nature and a love of flowers? Is there any man who loves flowers as much as a woman? Would you consider it a gift if somebody gave you some flowers? Doc, you were so wonderful. I really appreciate your giving me all that help at the hospital.
Prefer a bottle of whiskey myself.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Flowers wouldn't do it, right? Even though the flowers could be orchids and could be expensive, is there any woman who wouldn't rather have flowers than a bottle of whiskey? I mean, most part. So the idea is because the women actually feel nature. They feel connected to nature. The way we put this in the Talmud is like this. The pasuk says, Ki v'yah Hashem tzur olam. God fashioned the world. And Yah is the letters Yud and Hey. So Yud is Ish, is Aleph Yud Shin. Isha is Aleph Shin Hey. So Ki b'yah, God fashioned the world. I mean, the physical world, this world is Hey. B'hi baram. God created this world with a Hey. Which means women are connected to this world. And man is connected to the world to come. And therefore, a woman's more connected to the universe here. So in this world, she knows God. A man knows God from the world to come. And therefore, he intellectualizes, I have to bring God into this world. A woman starts the opposite. She knows God in this world. Even in this world, she knows God. You want flowers?
I want to tell you what kind of whiskey.
Smoky.
So the second question, the idea that the tzitzits have to be visible. Does that come from Ra'ita Moto, that you shall see them?
Now, the truth of the matter is that's a question whether they actually have to be visible. There's some opinions that they have to be visible. That you actually have to see them. The other opinion is the opposite, that you only have to see them if you wear them as an outer garment. But if you're wearing an undergarment, I don't want to see your underpants. I mean, today that wouldn't be a shortcoming either. Like, there's some styles, you have to see the guy's underpants. That's a style in clothing today. So the question is whether today you have to wear your tzitzis outside. If you wear the garment outside, then that's right. But if it's an undergarment, then you don't have to see the tzitzis.
But if it's a reminder, then you really want it's like putting a string on your finger. If you put your string on your underpants, it wouldn't help you very much as you walk around.
Okay, that's true, but it's still that during the day you do have occasion to lower your pants, and therefore as long as you have a few reminders during the day, that's good enough.
It's true too.
Putting it on.
Huh?
And the action of putting it on.
Right.
I think
in other words, what Ricky's saying is, it's not that you remind yourself in the morning. Most of us have to remind ourselves all day long. That was your question. To bring the milk.
So those people who wear it as an undergarment but still have it exposed, that's their choice, but it doesn't. It's certainly not required.
It's certainly not required. In fact, it doesn't really make sense that you're showing off your undergarments. It's not even respectful to people showing that I'm showing my undergarments.
It seems to me it's a little like wearing a hat or a kippah. What you're doing is trying to remind yourself of
100%.
And to wear it underneath, to my mind, doesn't make sense, because, as you say, yes, of course, every now and then you take stuff off so you can see it, but if it's over you, if it's an overgarment, then you really see it all the time and it reminds you all the time. So wear it underneath is much less.
But there's a danger with wearing it all the time also. After you wear it all the time, then it becomes
routine.
This is the way you dress, so it doesn't have. How many of us really are affected and do mitzvahs all because we're wearing a yarmulke? Wear a yarmulke all the time. It's just.
If I'm doing something that I'm not proud of,
Yes.
so I'm in a place where I probably shouldn't be.
He takes his
I
kippah
take my
off.
Then it's heavy.
What do you say? You take your yarmulke off?
Well, exactly. You go into a restaurant, it's not a kosher restaurant. Even if you're not eating anything that's not kosher, you're having a glass of water, you're having a simple salad, you're not supposed to wear your kippah because somebody might think that you're there eating the wrong thing.
I mean, I hear this. I don't know. You're not supposed to, but yeah, I hear. I hear the sense.
Do other people take their kippah off for doing something that they're not proud of, or they're in a place that theoretically they shouldn't be? Is that true?
I put on a baseball cap when I'm driving aggressively.
Yeah, right.
I put on a baseball cap when I'm driving aggressively.
Okay, same idea.
How many baseball hats do you have?
What would you say, Doc?
I said put on a baseball hat when I'm driving aggressively.
When you drive it?
Driving aggressively. What is he?
Takes his
That's
kippah
assuming you're not.
off.
That's assuming you're not in Israel, because if you don't in Israel, you'll just sit there all day.
Everybody have a great week. Great show.
All the M word about Martha.
Yeah, let me just answer one question. Menachem just reminded me, I forgot that. So what's Emor V'Marta about Marta Alehem?
3 times.
What V'Marta Alehem in the Torah means. Our question was, what was the need for all the repetitions? V'Marta, they should tell them. It already said, go say it, speak, and what do you have to say? When you tell somebody to do something, you're in charge. When you say Omarta Alehem, means you're putting them in charge. Or Marta Alehem means they are in charge. When God tells Moshe to say to the Jewish people, do something, so they're doing it, why? Because Moshe was told by God. When he says, well, Marta Alehem, means no, put them in charge. That's exactly what it is. Tzitzit is they're being put in charge of how to run their life.